Manchester plasters her pictures through the first edition and clearly identifies her by photographs and the captions that she was the Lucia that the vampire had bitten. As I said, there's only one of those pictures remaining in the new edition on page 72, but that is Lucia herself.
Now, you knew her personally.
I knew her personally. Lucia, in fact, was a girlfriend of Manchester. She was living with him between 1969 and 1972.
Now, you spoke with her? I mean, you talked to her?
I went to dinner at the house.
Okay.
I used to go to dinner at Manchester's house.
Now, it's my understanding, and let's get this cleared up front, that prior to I believe it was March 1970, was it ITV that had the big newscast at Highgate Cemetery?
That's right, yeah.
That ITV, prior to that happening, Mr. Manchester said...
Had never met me.
Had never met you.
Yeah.
But you in fact are saying that you did meet him before.
Yeah, I met him I first met him in actually 1967. I was actually introduced to him in 1968. I don't want to digress, Don. If I do, just pull me back, because as you said, it's a long story.
Well, no, I'm just trying to get all this clear.
He was playing the saxophone in a trio in a local pub called the Woodman in Highgate, and I and my first wife used to drink in there. That's how I was first introduced to Manchester. He knew I was well known locally for my interest in the occult ghosts, and I actually had formed the British Psychic and Occult Society way back in 1967. But he knew all about that, and he was always asking me questions about ghosts and local hauntings and things of that nature.
Which, incidentally, for all you folks listening to this show, the UK is renowned worldwide for probably being what? One of the most haunted spots on the planet?
It's certainly got that reputation, Don, if you're addressing that to me.
Yes, well, I am.
Yeah. Yes, it certainly has. It's probably, I mean, no offence, but the UK is a very old country, whereas America is...
A very young country, yes.
Very young. I really don't wish to... I'll cause offence to anyone by saying that, but the thing, the UK's got a lot of old history, it's got a lot of old castles, a lot of old buildings.
Well, part of my family emanate from Wales and Ireland, so I mean, you know, you're not going to offend anybody.
Okay, that's fine then. I certainly don't mean to, but anyway, it's an old country, and of course, it maybe follows that it's got a lot of old ghosts too that have been seen down through the centuries. But I'm sorry, I'm digressing. What happened was I met Manchester in '68 because he knew I had an interest in the occult and local hauntings. The Highgate vampire hadn't really started to be seen yet until, I'm sorry, I'm calling it a vampire.
The Highgate apparition.
The Highgate ghost, the Highgate apparition, wasn't really reported in earnest until 1969. But the point is, I used to go to dinner at Manchester Holloway Road flat when he was living with Jacqueline Cooper. Now, if you want, I suppose I can say that it doesn't matter because it's all on record. Manchester had already been living in the flat with his first wife and 2 young children. He'd moved out, and Jacqueline Cooper moved in. And it was only a matter of months or a couple of years later that his first wife named Jacqueline Cooper on her divorce petition. He divorced Manchester, which she later won, and Jacqueline Cooper's name actually appears on the petition, and I believe the offence, if that's an offence, it was adultery. Those were her grounds for divorce.
Okay, now that aside, and I mean everybody loves sex, everybody loves the supernatural, at least the people listening to this show, and you don't get better than sex in the supernatural, but did this young woman die?
No, she did not.
So, you're telling me that right now, in the United Kingdom, that this woman is still alive?
Well, as far as I know, I mean, she would be well into her 50s now.
Easy, David. Today's my birthday. I'm well in my 50s.
I'm sorry, Don. I don't want to talk down to you. I think I'm a bit older than you are. I mean that anyway. No, she could still well be alive, yeah. And of course, if she was found, that would really discredit the whole of Manchester story.
Well, now you head up an organization called the BPOS. What is that?
The BPOS, those initials actually stand for the British Psychic and Occult Society.
Okay.
I founded that society in the autumn of 1967.
And it's still going on.
Oh yes.
And you still conduct active investigations.
Oh yes, all over the country.
And
at the time it started, it was obviously only much smaller. It was just local people interested in local hauntings. But over the years, it's grown, and it now has quite a huge membership. Yeah.
Now, why have you not attempted to track down this lady?
We have. We certainly have. I mean, but we've just had no success.
Oh.
I can guess the only reason is, but this is my personal theory, I can't prove it. It could be just that she's heard of all this nonsense that's been written about her. She could be happily married, she could have children by now, and she just doesn't want the embarrassment of coming forward and saying, I was the Highgate vampire's disciple, I was the one that changed into a giant spider, or was supposed to have turned into a giant spider. Here I am.
Well, now the BBC, the ITV, all those at the time that this case was at the forefront back in the early 1970s, I would think that they would have wanted to follow up on this, if for nothing else, ratings. Did they become involved in this aspect of the case?
I think we have to, no, not to my knowledge. I think we have to remember, though, that all this was supposed to have happened. When Manchester claimed he actually staked the Highgate vampire, this was in 1973 or 4, yes? But it was some 12 years after this that he actually wrote his self-published book, The Highgate Vampire. This was really the first people heard about this giant spider story. That is when Manchester wrote this book in 1985.
Okay, so, now let me do this too, because now I have you here on the show. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to want to see what you have up on your website. Give us how to get to your website, would you?
Well, it's quite simple. Yeah, you just I'll type in my name, which is obviously davidfarrant.org.
davidfarrant.org. Now you have a FAQ up there, a frequently asked question list, don't you?
Yeah, that only went up very recently. Yeah.
Okay, and you answer in this FAQ a lot of questions about this case.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, for anybody that wants to join in, chat with you, that type of thing, is there somewhere to do that?
Yes, we also have a forum board, which I'm not very good on the internet, or I only remember davidfarrant.org because it's so simple, but we have a forum board. If you go onto the main board, there's an index which will say forum. After you type in davidfarrant.org, main board, then you'll see on the left forum. If they click on forum, then you'll come onto the forum where people can debate or discuss whatever they want, yeah.
Okay, let's hang on for a second, David. David, now, this is one aspect of this entire case that has quite honestly fascinated me, and apparently I am not by any stretch of the imagination the only person that since the early 1970s, and I'm going to just throw an arbitrary figure out there, about 35 to 37 years, this contention has maintained itself between you and Sean Manchester. If one goes up on the World Wide Web, you can find a number of places where this feud plays out. Up on the James Randi site, there's another website called Mondo Skepto, which I have discovered. I've been reading stuff in there. I mean, my Lord, after all these years, what is it about this case that that there is still this huge bone of contention. At one point, is it not true that there were rumors that you and Sean Manchester had a duel in France?
Yes, it's true. I mean, I'm sorry. There were rumours that we had a duel in France. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was reported in the press. Yeah.
Is it true that there were pictures taken of Sean Manchester with what looked like blood on him, and there were reports that he was killed?
Yes, that is true. He was supposed to be dead, and that picture was circulated by Sean Manchester together with a death note. I've got copies. If I knew you were going to ask me that, I'd try to sort one out. But it's the funniest thing you've seen in your life. It was a notice sent down around to many occult groups and mystics in the country and other people in the press.
Well, when one is a cop, or formerly a cop, a detective, I really wanted to dig into this.
Okay, well, he put up this notice which read something like, "The world will mourn the loss of a dear and trusted friend. We are trying to raise funds to ship it. He died in France. Here's the picture of him dead after fighting a duel with David Farrant. We want kind of listen, this is on the level. I know it's funny, but it's true. Hey,
I got to tell you, we Yanks really have a genuine appreciation for that Brit humor,
Well, it's true. They wanted to ship his body. I'm only summarising this. You'd have to read the thing yourself. They want funds to ship his body back to England, where we intend to bury him at Glastonbury, a place that always close and dear to his heart. Yeah, that notice that was circulated all over the place with this picture.
Well, let me ask: was it with pistols or swords? I prefer pistols myself.
No, this one was with sabers.
Sabers.
Yeah. Now listen, Dom. This is a funny. Well, it's not really.
I'm sorry. That just struck my funny bone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got a visit from the Highgate CID.
Criminal Investigation Division.
That's right. Look, this picture was being circulated to all the press by Manchester, or his
surrogates.
He was supposed to be dead, wasn't he? But I mean, by his organisation asking for this fund. At the same time, the press started doing stories on it, and it somehow got into the hands of the police. So the police turned up to interview me with the picture. No, they wanted to know what I'd done with his body. This is on the level. I actually got a bit funny with them. I said, "Look," it's outside UK jurisdiction. I said, "You'll have to get Interpol onto it." I actually said that, and they didn't really think it was funny. They said, "Look, we're just following up an investigation. We're not saying we believe it. Well, we want answers." And of course, I couldn't tell him where his body was.
Now, what in the name of God could have been the purpose of this?
Because Manchester has used my name over the years, just as you mentioned that tape to me at the beginning, of the show, which you played, which I couldn't hear, but I actually fully take your word for it, what was on it. He's been using me, or rather using my name over the years for his own publicity stunts. But he was the one that's always encouraged me. He said, "Look, you must say you are a black magician." He said, "People have got no interest in white magicians. You've got to say you're a black magician. You've got to admit, you've got to say you sacrifice cats." All this is nonsense, and he knows
something tells me I'm going to be in the spotlight here with this bunch when this is all said and done.
Yeah, I'm used to it. The best of luck.
Okay, now there's another question that I've come across in many of these websites, literally, I guess, around the world that deal with the Highgate vampire case, David Farrant and Sean Manchester, and that is whether Sean Manchester is, in fact, an ordained member of the clergy